The huge metal doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a loud hiss. Ambassador Kang Day walked through them, his black shoes making soft sounds on the smooth floor. Behind him came Li Hana, her military uniform neat and clean. She carried a small bag with important papers and data files. The council chamber was bigger than most Earth cities. The ceiling went up so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Hundreds of seats filled the curved walls, each one built for a different type of alien. Some seats had water tanks for the fish-like Aquari. Others had heat lamps for the cold-blooded Reptani. The air smelled like a mix of different gases that each species needed to breathe. Day found his seat in the human section. It looked tiny compared to the massive chair next to it, which belonged to the Thrakari delegation. General Vextar sat there like a mountain of muscle and bone. His skin was dark gray, and scars covered his arms and face. Each scar told a story of battle. His eyes glowed red when he looked at the humans. "Look who finally came," Vextar said, in his deep voice. The words came out slow and heavy, like rocks falling. "The peaceful humans. Did you bring flowers to throw at our enemies?" Laughter filled the chamber. It came from dozens of different species, each making their own type of sound. The Chitauri queen clicked her sharp teeth together. The sound was like breaking glass. Her body looked like a giant insect, with 6 arms and skin that shined like metal. 2 smaller Chitauri stood behind her, their wings buzzing. "Humans talk about peace, while others die in war," Queen Zekathara said. Her voice was high and sharp. "Your people hide behind words while real warriors fight." More laughter came from the Luminar section. Prismdal was their speaker. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors when he talked. Right now, the colors were bright and mocking, light shot from his form in patterns that hurt human eyes to look at. "We have seen human ships," Prismdal said. His voice sounded like music, but cold music with no feeling. "They run from every fight. They send messages asking to talk instead of shooting back." Hana felt her hands make fists. She had been in those ships. She knew what really happened in those fights, but she stayed quiet. Day had told her to let him do the talking today. The ethereal representative floated above her seat. Lumnara had no solid body. She was made of glowing gas that moved like smoke. Her voice came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. "Perhaps humans are too young as a species," Lumnara said. "They have not learned that some things are worth dying for. They still think like children." A small alien called Piptek jumped up and down in his seat. He was no bigger than a human child, but his voice was loud and angry. "My people fought the Outer Rim Coalition for 2 years, he shouted. "We lost half our worlds. Where were the humans? They sent food and medicine. Food and medicine. We needed guns and soldiers." The room grew louder. More aliens began to speak at the same time. They told stories of battles where humans could have helped but did not. They talked about human diplomats who always wanted to make deals instead of fight. They said humans were weak, scared, and useless in a real war. Vextar stood up. His huge form cast a shadow over the human section. "The Outer Rim Coalition grows stronger every day," he said. "They take more worlds. They kill more of our people. And what do humans do? They ask for peace talks." "Peace talks," Queen Zekthara repeated. "The coalition laughs at peace talks. They understand only strength. They respect only power. Humans have neither." Day sat still through all of this. His face showed nothing. His hands stayed flat on the table in front of him. Hana knew that look. She had seen it before, during their time in the Earth Defense Corps. It was the look Day got right before he did something that changed everything. The room kept getting louder. Aliens shouted over each other. Some stood up and waved their arms, wings, or tentacles. The air filled with angry sounds in dozens of different languages. "Enough!" The voice came from the center of the room. High Counselor Mordan was the oldest, being in the galaxy. No one knew what species he was anymore. His body was mostly machine now, with only small parts of his original form still alive. When he spoke, everyone listened. "We are here to decide our next move against the coalition," Mordan said. His voice was like metal scraping against stone. "The humans refuse to send military ships. They say they want to try talking first. I think we should hear their reasons. We know their reasons, Vextar said. They are afraid. They are weak, added Queen Zekthara. They do not understand war, said Prism Doll. Morden's mechanical eyes turned to look at Day. Ambassador Kang Day of Earth, your people have been part of our alliance for 50 years. In that time, you have never sent warships to help in any major conflict. You always choose to talk instead of fight. Many here think this makes you unreliable allies. What do you say? Day stood up slowly. The room became quiet. Even the background hum of the air systems seemed to get softer. Hana watched his face and felt a chill run down her back. She recognized that expression. It was the same look he had, worn on Kepler 442b, right before he ordered the orbital bombardment that ended the rebellion there. Most people did not know about Kepler 442b. The Earth government had classified that information. Honored counselors, Day began. His voice was calm and clear. You ask why humans avoid war. You think it is because we are weak or afraid. You believe we do not understand the cost of conflict. He paused and looked around the room. His eyes met those of every major delegation leader. You are wrong, he said simply. The room stayed quiet, but Hana could feel the tension building. Some aliens leaned forward in their seats. Others shifted nervously. I think, Day continued, that you do not understand why we truly avoid war. You do not know what happens when humans stop talking and start fighting. You have never seen what we are really capable of. Vextar laughed. It was a harsh sound, like breaking rocks. Big words from a small human. What could your soft species possibly teach us about war? Day smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile that made smart people step back and think twice. General Vexitar, Day said. Would you like me to tell you? Would you like me to explain to this council exactly why humans prefer to avoid war? The Thrakari general's red eyes glowed brighter. Yes, little human. Tell us your great secret. Tell us why you think you are too good to fight alongside real warriors. Day nodded once. He reached for his bag and pulled out a small device. He placed it on the table and pressed a button. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, visible to everyone. Very well, Day said. His voice was still calm, but now there was something else in it. Something that made Hana remember why she had followed him through 3 military campaigns and never questioned his orders. Let me tell you about war. Let me tell you about human war. The hologram showed an image of Earth from space. It looked peaceful and blue with white clouds swirling over green and brown continents. This is our home, Day said. Beautiful, is it not? But do not let that fool you. This planet has been shaped by war for millions of years. Not just human war, all war. Every living thing on Earth learned to fight, or it died. He pressed another button. The image changed to show forests and plains. Before humans even existed, our world was a battlefield. Every day was a war for survival. Only the strongest lived. Only the smartest survived. And humans? Humans were not the strongest. We were not the fastest. We were not the biggest. The image changed again. Now it showed early humans, small and weak compared to the huge animals around them. So we learned to think. We learned to plan. We learned to work together. And most importantly, we learned to fight in ways our enemies never expected. Day looked directly at Vextar. General, you pride yourself on your strength and your scars. You think war is about being brave and charging into battle. That is not war. That is just fighting. The room was completely silent now. Even the air. Systems seemed to have stopped humming. War, Day said, is what happens when fighting is not enough. Day pressed another button on his device. The hologram changed to show ancient Earth, with small kingdoms and simple cities. Men in metal armor rode horses across muddy fields. Let me tell you about Kim Tae, Day said. He lived on Earth over 2,000 years ago. His kingdom was small and weak. Bigger kingdoms surrounded it on all sides. They had more soldiers, more weapons, more money. The hologram showed a map with colored areas representing different kingdoms. One tiny red dot was surrounded by much larger blue and green sections. Kim Tae's enemies thought he would be easy to defeat. They thought wrong. The image changed to show a thin man in simple robes, studying scrolls by candlelight. Kim Tae spent years learning about his enemies. He studied how they fought, how they thought, what they feared. He learned about their families, their gods, their weaknesses. General Vexatar shifted in his massive chair. One man cannot defeat armies with scrolls and candles. You are right, Day said. Kim Tae never won a single battle through strength. Instead, he made his enemies fight each other. The hologram showed armies clashing, but now the blue and green forces were fighting among themselves, while the small red kingdom watched safely from the side. Kim Tae sent false messages between his enemies. He made each kingdom think the others were planning to betray them. Within 2 years, the 3 largest kingdoms had destroyed each other in civil wars. Kim Tae's forces never had to fight a single major battle. Queen Zekthara clicked her mandibles. Tricks and lies. This is not honorable warfare. Honor, Day repeated softly. Yes. Let me tell you about honor in human warfare. He pressed the button again. Now the hologram showed a much later time period. Metal machines rolled across scarred landscapes. Flying vehicles filled the sky. This was our First World War. 54 million humans died. We thought it would be the war to end all wars. We were wrong. The numbers appeared in the air. 54,000 dead. Several aliens in the chamber made shocked sounds. Even for species that lived much longer than humans, it was a huge number. 21 years later, we fought again. This time, 75 million died. The new number replaced the old one. 75,000 dead. Park Jin, the cultural attaché, stood up from his seat behind Day. He was a quiet man who usually said nothing during these meetings. Now he activated his own device, and smaller holograms appeared around the room, showing images that made even the battle-hardened aliens look away. The images showed destroyed cities, empty of all life. They showed fields covered with bodies. They showed humans fighting in conditions that would kill most other species. This is what human war looks like, Park Jin said in his soft voice. We do not fight until one side gives up. We fight until one side cannot fight anymore. Lumnara's gaseous form flickered. Surely these numbers are mistakes. No species would kill so many of their own kind. These were just the big wars, Day said. Between them we fought hundreds of smaller wars. Some lasted for decades, some for centuries. He gestured, and the hologram showed a timeline stretching back thousands of years. Red marks indicated conflicts. There were so many red marks that they almost completely covered the timeline. Humans have been at war with someone, somewhere, for 93% of our recorded history, Day said. We have fought over land, over resources, over ideas, over gods. We have fought our neighbors, our families, ourselves. Prism dolls, crystal forms shifted to deeper, darker colors. If humans fight so much, why do you claim to want peace? Because we learned, Day said simply. We learned what war really costs. The hologram changed again. Now it showed a more recent period, with space stations and ships among the stars. This brings us to the colonial rebellion of 2387. The outer colonies wanted independence from Earth. They thought they could win because they had newer ships and better technology. A new figure appeared in the hologram, a woman in military uniform with short black hair and determined eyes. This is Colonel Yoon Seo. She was 26 years old when the rebellion started. She commanded a single ship with a crew of 200 humans. The image showed a sleek warship floating in the darkness of space. The rebels had 50 ships. They surrounded Colonel Yoon's ship and demanded surrender. They offered to let her crew live if she gave up without fighting. General Vextar leaned forward. A smart commander would surrender. 200 against thousands is suicide. Colonel Yoon had a different idea, Day said. She told the rebels that humans do not surrender when their families are threatened. The hologram showed the single human ship surrounded by a fleet of rebel vessels. The battle lasted 17 hours. When it ended, 37 rebel ships were destroyed or disabled. Colonel Yoon's ship was badly damaged but still fighting. Gasps came from around the chamber. Even species known for their warfare skills looked shocked. How is this possible? Demanded Queen Zekthara. One ship cannot defeat 50. Park Jin activated another display. This one showed the battle in detail, ship by ship. Colonel Yoon used tactics that the rebels did not expect, he explained. She hid her ship inside an asteroid field. When the EI rebels came looking for her, she used the asteroids as weapons. The display showed the human ship pushing huge rocks into the paths of rebel ships. When the rebels tried to dodge, they crashed into other asteroids or each other. She turned there. Numbers against them, Park Jin continued. In the narrow spaces between asteroids, only a few rebel ships could attack at once. Colonel Yoon picked them off one by one. But how did she destroy so many ships with just one? Asked Pip Tech, the small alien who had spoken earlier. Days. Expression grew darker. She did not just destroy their ships, she destroyed their will to fight. The hologram showed recordings from inside the rebel ships. Alien translators provided subtitles as human voices came over the radio. "This is Colonel Yoon Seo of Earth Defense Corps," the voice said calmly. "You came to fight one human ship. Now you know what one human ship can do. Imagine what 100 human ships would do. Imagine what 1,000 would do." The recordings showed rebel crews abandoning their posts. Some ships turned and fled without orders. Others simply shut down their weapons and drifted in space. But the most important part, Day said, was what Colonel Yoon did next. The hologram showed the damaged human ship slowly moving toward the rebel fleet's command vessel. The rebel commander still had 12 working ships. He could have destroyed Colonel Yoon's damaged vessel easily. But she sent him a message. The voice came through the speakers again, still calm despite the obvious sounds of alarms and damage. In the background. "Commander Hayes," Colonel Yoon said, "I know you have family on New Terra Colony. I know you have a daughter named Rebecca, age 7. I know you started this war because you want a better life for her." The chamber fell silent. Every alien delegate was listening carefully now. "I also know," the voice continued, "that if you do not surrender right now, I will ram my ship into yours at full speed. My crew has already evacuated to the escape pods. I am alone on this ship, and I have nothing left to lose." She was bluffing, Vextar said, but his voice was uncertain. "No," Day said quietly. She was not bluffing. The escape pods were empty. Her crew refused to leave. All 200 humans stayed on that ship, ready to die with their commander. The hologram showed the human ship accelerating toward the rebel command vessel. "Humans do not bluff about death," Day said. "When we say we will die for something, we mean it." Commander Hayes knew this. He had seen 37 of his ships destroyed by humans who fought beyond all reason. "He surrendered," Park Jin added. More images to the display. These showed the aftermath of the battle. "The rebellion ended that day," he said. "Not because Colonel Yoon defeated their fleet, but because word spread about what humans would do to protect their families." "One battle ended a war?" Lumnara asked. "One battle showed the rebels what they were really fighting," Day corrected. "They thought they were fighting for independence. They discovered they were fighting for survival. The hologram changed one more time, showing a peaceful colony world with families working in fields and children playing in streets. This is New Terra today, Day said. The same colony where Commander Hayes wanted a better life for his daughter. It is still independent from Earth. We gave them what they wanted through negotiation after the war ended. Then why fight at all? Asked Prism Doll. Day looked directly at the crystal being. Because some people only understand peace after they have seen war. Colonel Yoon showed them what human war looks like. After that, they preferred human peace. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then General Vextar spoke again. This is one battle, human. One story. Do you think this frightens us? Day smiled that cold smile again. General, this was not a story about our military victories. This was a story about human restraint. Restraint? Colonel Yoon could have destroyed the entire rebel fleet, Day said. She had the weapons to do it. She chose not to. She could have made an example that would have terrified the galaxy. She chose mercy instead. He paused and looked around the chamber. Would you like to know what happens when humans choose not to show mercy? The silence in the chamber stretched longer this time. Day could see that his words were starting to affect the alien delegates. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed angry. A few appeared genuinely curious about what he would say next. Let Me tell you about a battle that most humans have never heard of, Day said. It happened in a system far from Earth, on a small mining station called Kepler 442b. Hana felt her stomach tighten. She had hoped Dai would not mention Kepler. That mission was still classified at the highest levels. The hologram shifted to show a small space station orbiting a rocky planet. The station looked peaceful, with lights twinkling in the darkness and supply ships coming and going. In 2391, this station was captured by raiders, Day continued, not the Outer Rim Coalition. This was years before they formed. These were common criminals who attacked merchant ships and kidnapped civilians for slave labor. Park Jin activated new displays around the room. These showed the raiders, a mixed group of different alien species, all heavily armed and dangerous looking. The raiders took 3,000 people hostage, Day said. Men, women, children from a dozen different species. They demanded a huge payment from the Galactic Trade Commission, or they would start killing one hostage every hour. Queen Zekthara's mandibles clicked softly. Pirates and kidnappers. Disgusting, but not unusual. What does this have to do with human warfare? The nearest galactic patrol ship was 6 days away, Day answered. The local system defense force had only 2 small vessels, no match for the raiders' heavy cruiser. But there was one human ship in the area. The hologram zoomed in to show a sleek vessel with Earth markings. The EDS Harmony, commanded by Captain Yoon Seo. Day gestured toward Hana. Colonel Lee Hana was the military advisor on that mission. Hana stood up reluctantly. She did not like talking about Kepler, but she knew Day needed her support for what came next. The raiders contacted Captain Yoon, Hana said in a steady voice. They told her to stay away or they would kill all the hostages. They had enough firepower to destroy our ship easily. So what did you do? Asked Lumnara. We followed human military doctrine, Hana said simply. General Vextar snorted. Run away and call for help? No, Hana said. We made sure the threat could never hurt anyone again. The hologram changed to show the interior of the human ship. The crew moved with calm efficiency, preparing for battle. But this was not the usual preparation that other species used. Human military doctrine has 3 basic rules, Hana explained. First, protect innocent life at all costs. Second, minimize damage to civilian areas when possible. Third, ensure the enemy cannot repeat their actions. These sound like reasonable rules, said Prism Doll. They are, Day agreed. But humans interpret them differently than other species might expect. The display showed the human ship approaching the station very slowly. It looked like a peaceful approach, the kind a diplomat might make. Captain Yoon opened communications with the raiders, Hana continued. She told them she wanted to negotiate. She offered to bring them food and medical supplies for the hostages in exchange for proof that the prisoners were still alive. Buying. Time for rescue ships to arrive, Queen Zekthara said approvingly. A smart delaying tactic. No, Hana said quietly. She was gathering intelligence. The hologram showed the human ship docking with the station, a small group of humans in plane. Clothes walked across, carrying boxes of supplies. While our people delivered the supplies, they were recording everything, Hana explained. The layout of the station, the number of raiders, their weapons, their defenses. Most importantly, the exact location of every hostage. Standard reconnaissance, General Vextar said dismissively. All militaries do this. All militaries gather information, Day agreed. But not all militaries use that information the way humans do. The scene changed to show the human negotiation team returning to their ship. The raiders looked satisfied. They had received supplies and the humans seemed willing to cooperate. What the raiders did not know, Hana said, was that our people had done more than just look around. The hologram zoomed in to show tiny devices, almost too small to see, attached to walls and equipment throughout the station. Microcharges, Hana explained. Each one no bigger than a grain of rice, completely undetectable unless you know exactly what to look for. The alien delegates leaned forward in their seats. This was getting interesting. Captain Yoon sent one more message to the raiders, Day said. She told them that Earth was prepared to pay the ransom. She just needed 12 hours to arrange the transfer of funds. And the raiders believed this? Asked Piptech. They wanted to believe it, Hana said. 12 hours seemed reasonable for such a large payment. It gave them time to celebrate their success. The display showed the raiders relaxing, drinking, and planning how to spend their ransom money. Many of them went to sleep thinking the hard part was over. At exactly midnight station time, Day said, Captain Yoon sent a final message to the raider leader. The hologram showed a tired-looking alien criminal answering his communication device, expecting to hear about the money transfer. Instead, Captain Yoon's voice was cold and professional. This is Captain Yoon Seo of the Earth Defense Ship Harmony. I am informing you that your ship is now disabled and your escape routes are blocked. You have 60 seconds to release all hostages and surrender. The raider leader laughed and reached, for his weapon controls. Then alarms started blaring throughout the station. The microcharges had activated, Hana explained. Not to explode. That would have endangered the hostages. Instead, they released a gas that only affects certain species. The gas was harmless to humans and most other races, but it made the raiders' species fall asleep instantly. The hologram showed raiders collapsing throughout the station, their weapons falling from their hands. 60% of the raiders were unconscious within 30 seconds, Day said. The remaining 40% were confused and disorganized. They did not know what was happening or how to respond. But that still left dangerous criminals with weapons near the hostages, Lumnara pointed out. Yes, Hana said grimly, which is why we had a backup plan. The display changed to show space around the station. The human ship had moved to a new position, and its weapon ports were now open. The raiders, who were still awake, tried to use the hostages as shields, Day said. They threatened to kill civilians if the humans attacked. A difficult situation, Queen Zekathara admitted. How did you resolve it without casualties? We did not, Hana said quietly. The chamber fell silent again. The aliens looked confused. There were casualties, Day clarified. All of the raiders died. How? General Vextar demanded. You said the hostages were being used as shields. Human military doctrine, Hana repeated. Protect innocent life at all costs. Minimize civilian damage when possible. Ensure the enemy cannot repeat their actions. The hologram showed what happened next, and several aliens made sounds of shock or disgust. The human ship fired, but not at the station. Instead, it targeted the raiders' escape ship, completely destroying it in a brilliant explosion. You cut off their escape, Prismdoll said, but that does not explain how you killed them without harming hostages. The raiders panicked when they saw their ship destroyed, Hana explained. They realized they had no way to leave the station. Some tried to surrender, others became more violent. And Captain Yoon made an announcement over the station's communication system, Day said. She told the hostages exactly what to do. The hologram showed frightened civilians, men, women, and children of various species, listening to a calm human voice giving them instructions. She told them to lie down on the floor and cover their heads, Hana said. She gave them exactly 30 seconds to get into position. Then she fired. The display showed precise weapon strikes hitting the station, but these were not random. Shots. Each beam was carefully targeted. Human computers had calculated the exact position of every raider based on the intelligence we gathered, Day explained. Our weapons were programmed to fire through walls, floors, and ceilings to hit only the criminals. The aliens stared in shock. This level of precision was beyond what most species could achieve. Every shot went exactly where it was supposed to go, Hana said. 23 raiders died instantly. 0 hostages were harmed. Impossible, General Vextar said. No weapon system is that accurate. Human weapon systems are, Day said simply. When we fight, we do not rely on luck or chance. We plan for every possibility. Cho Min, Earth's Director of Military Intelligence, stood up from her seat in the back of the human section. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp and alert. General Vextar, she said, would you like to see the weapon specifications? The Galactic Council has copies of all our military technology reports. You share your weapons? Technology? Queen Zekathara sounded surprised. We share some of it, Cho Min said. The parts that we want other species to know about. She activated her own device, and new displays appeared around the chamber. These showed technical diagrams and specifications for human weapons. This is our standard ship-mounted precision laser, she explained. It can hit a target the size of a coin from a distance of 50 kilometers. The targeting computer can track up to 500 separate targets simultaneously and engage them all, do you? Day paused and looked around the chamber. The alien delegates were paying close attention now. The mocking laughter from earlier had completely stopped. "Let me tell you about the Centauri conflict," Day said. "This happened 15 years ago. It was the last time humans were directly involved in a military action." The hologram changed to show a star system with multiple planets. Several looked green and blue, worlds where life could flourish. "The Centauri Republic was a proud civilization," Day continued. "They had ruled their system for over 1,000 years. They were known for their honor, their courage, and their military skill." General Vextar straightened in his chair. This sounded like his kind of people. "The Centauri had never lost a war," Day said. "Their warriors were trained from childhood. Their weapons were the finest in the sector. Their ships were fast and heavily armed." "What were they fighting about?" asked Queen Zekthara. "Trade routes," Park Jin answered. "Human merchants wanted to establish shipping lanes through Centauri space. The Centauri refused. They said outsiders were not welcome in their territory." "A reasonable position," said Prism Doll. "Every species has the right to control their own space." "Humans agreed," Day said. "We accepted their decision and looked for alternative routes. But the Centauri were not satisfied with just saying no. The hologram showed Centauri warships attacking human merchant vessels. They began raiding our supply convoys," Day explained. "Not in their space, in neutral territory. They said humans had insulted them by asking for passage rights in the first place." "Pride," Lumnara said softly. "It makes species do foolish things." "The raids continued for 6 months," Day said. 17 human ships were destroyed. Over 400 civilians died. The chamber grew quiet. Even species that did not like humans could understand that this was wrong. "Earth sent a negotiator," Day continued. "A man named Nam Su. He was not a soldier or a diplomat. He was a psychologist." This surprised several aliens. Why send a mind doctor to handle a military problem? "Nam Su requested a meeting with the Centauri War Council," Day said. "He came alone, on an unarmed ship. The Centauri leaders agreed to see him because they were curious about what this human would say." The hologram showed a small human ship approaching a massive Centauri space station. The station was clearly military, covered with weapon turrets and armor plating. "The Centauri expected Nam Su to beg for mercy," Day said. "They thought he would offer tribute or promise to stay away from their territory forever." "What did he do instead?" asked Piptech. "He gave them a history lesson," Day said. A new figure appeared in the hologram, a middle-aged human man with calm eyes and graying hair. He sat at a table facing a group of proud Centauri warriors. The aliens were tall and elegant, with smooth skin that changed color based on their emotions. Right now, they glowed with confident orange and gold patterns. Nam Su began by complimenting the Centauri on their military achievements, Day said. He praised their honor, their courage, their skill in battle. He said humans respected strong warriors and admired the Centauri traditions. General Vextar nodded approvingly. Proper respect for military excellence. Then Nam Su asked them a question, Day continued. He asked if they had ever fought humans before. The hologram showed the Centauri leaders looking puzzled. Of course, they had not fought humans. The raids were their first contact with Earth's forces. Nam Su said he was glad to hear this, Day said, because it meant the Centauri could still choose how this conflict would end. Choose? Queen Zekthara's mandibles clicked with interest. Nam Su explained that humans always offer their enemies one free choice, Day said. The choice to stop fighting before they learn what human warfare really looks like. The Centauri. In the hologram laughed. Their skin flashed with bright, amused colors. The Centauri war leader told Nam Su that humans were weak merchants who hired other species to fight for them, Day said. He said Centauri warriors had never been defeated. In battle. What was Nam Su's response? Asked Lumnara. He smiled, Day said simply, and then he began to teach them about human military history. The hologram split into multiple smaller displays around the chamber. Each one showed a different scene from human warfare. Nam Su did not just tell them stories, Day explained. He showed them recordings, real battles where humans had fought other species. Yung Bo, Earth's xenopsychologist, stood up from her seat. She was a young woman with dark hair and intense eyes that seemed to see too much. Nam Su's presentation was very carefully planned, Yung Bo said. Every image, every recording, every piece of information was chosen for its psychological impact on Centauri minds. How so? Prismdoll asked. Centauri psychology is based on honor and pride, Yung Bo explained. They respect strength, but they fear humiliation more than death. Nam Su showed them exactly what kind of humiliation humans could inflict. The displays showed human soldiers fighting in conditions that would break most species. In one recording, a human squad continued fighting after their equipment was destroyed, using improvised weapons made from debris. In another, human crews kept their damaged ships in battle even after life support failed, wearing emergency suits and breathing bottled air. The Centauri were impressed at first, Yung Bo said. They saw humans as brave warriors like themselves. But then Nam Su showed them something else, Dai added. The displays changed to show the aftermath of human battles. Defeated enemies were not just dead. They were completely broken. Their military forces were scattered, their weapons destroyed, their leadership eliminated. Nam Su explained human military doctrine to the Centauri Council, Dai said. He told them about the 3 rules. Protect innocent life, minimize civilian damage, ensure the enemy cannot repeat their actions. The Centauri understood the first. 2 rules, Yung Bo said, but the third one confused them. Why? Asked General Vextar. Because Centauri warfare is about honor, Yung Bo explained. When they defeat an enemy, they allow them to surrender with dignity. The defeated warriors can return home and tell stories of their brave fight against superior forces. A civilized approach to warfare, Prismdoll said approvingly. Nam Su explained that humans do not fight for honor, Dai said. We fight to solve problems, and when we solve a problem, we make sure it stays solved. The hologram showed Nam Su opening a new file on his display device. He showed the Centauri Council something that no other species had ever seen, Dai said. Complete battle plans for fighting the Centauri Republic. The chamber fell silent. Even the background hum of the air systems seemed to stop. Plans, Queen? Zekthara asked quietly. Human intelligence services had been studying the Centauri for over 50 years, Yung Bo explained. We knew everything about their military structure, their weapons technology, their tactical doctrines, their supply lines. More importantly, Dai added, we knew how their minds worked. The displays around the chamber showed detailed maps of Centauri space, with every military installation marked and analyzed. Nam Su showed them how humans would attack their home system, Dai said. Not with massive fleets or powerful weapons, but with surgical strikes designed to destroy their ability to fight. What kind of strikes? Lumnara asked. Psychological. Ones, Yung Bo answered. Humans had identified the 12 most important Centauri war leaders. We knew their names, their families, their personal histories, their fears. The hologram showed detailed profiles of Centauri officers. Each profile contained information that would have taken years to gather. Personal habits, psychological weaknesses, tactical preferences. Nam Su explained that humans would not kill these leaders, Dai said. Instead, we would capture them alive and put them on trial for attacking civilian ships. Public trials, Yung Bo added. Broadcast throughout Centauri space, showing their greatest heroes being questioned by human lawyers about their actions. The Centauri in the hologram had stopped laughing. Their skin was now showing darker colors, blues and purples that indicated fear and uncertainty. But that was not the worst part, Dai said. There was worse? Asked Piptek. Nam Su showed them what would happen to their civilization after the trials, Dai said. Humans would not destroy the Centauri Republic. We would not take their territory or enslave their people. Then what? General Vexitar demanded. We would leave them alone, Dai said simply, completely alone. The aliens looked confused. How was being left alone a punishment? Nam Su explained the human concept of quarantine, Yung Bo said. No human ships would enter Centauri space. No human merchants would trade with them. No human diplomats would speak to them. Furthermore, Dai added, Humans would share their intelligence files about the Centauri with every other species in the galaxy. The chamber began to understand. If humans declared the Centauri to be dangerous raiders, other species would avoid them too. The Centauri Republic would become a dead zone, Yongbo explained. Cut off from galactic civilization, with no trade, no communication, no contact with the outside universe. Their proud warrior culture would slowly starve, Day said. Not from lack of food, but from lack of purpose. What good are the greatest fighters in the galaxy if no one will fight them? The hologram showed the Centauri Council members looking at each other with growing horror. Their skin had turned almost black with fear. Namsu gave them 3 days to decide, Day said. The displays around the chamber showed information that made every alien delegate freeze in their seats. Detailed profiles appeared for each species, complete with military capabilities, psychological weaknesses, and tactical assessments. General. Vextar stared at his own profile floating in the air before him. It contained information about Thrakari military doctrine, their honor-based command structure, and their vulnerability to certain types of sonic weapons that disrupted their inner ear balance. "This is impossible," he said quietly. "Some of this information is classified at the highest levels of our military." "Nothing is truly classified from humans," Yongbo said matter-of-factly. "We are very good at gathering information." Queen Zekthara's mandibles were clicking rapidly as she read her own profile. It detailed the Chitauri hive structure, the location of their breeding worlds, and the specific pheromones that could cause their workers to abandon their posts. "You have been spying on us," she accused. "We have been learning about you," Day corrected. "There is a difference. Spying implies hostile intent. Learning is what humans do naturally." Song Yu, Earth's military historian, stood up from her seat near the back of the human section. She was an older woman with silver hair and tired eyes that had seen too many classified reports. "Every species in this chamber has been studied by human analysts," Song Yu said. "We know your strengths, your weaknesses, your military capabilities, and your psychological profiles." "Why?" demanded Lumnara, her gaseous form flickering with agitation. "Because that is what you do when you want to survive," Song Yu answered. "You learn everything you can about your neighbors." Day gestured, and the displays changed to show something even more disturbing. These were not just intelligence profiles. They were complete military strategies. "These are the extinction protocols," Day said quietly. The name itself made several aliens lean back in their seats. "Every human military commander has access to these plans," Song Yu explained. "They detail exactly how to eliminate each known species as a galactic threat." "Eliminate?" Piptek's voice was very small. "Not destroy," Day clarified. "Eliminate as a threat. There is a difference." The displays showed strategic maps for each species' territory. Red markers indicated critical infrastructure targets. Blue markers showed military installations. Yellow markers indicated leadership centers. "For the Thrakari," Song Yu said, looking at General Vextar, "humans would target your warrior training academies. We would not kill your soldiers. We would make it impossible for you to train new ones." Vextar's red eyes glowed brighter. "Our academies are on our homeworld. They are protected by orbital defense platforms." "Your orbital platforms use Kepler-class fusion reactors," Yongbo said, reading from her display. "They have a design flaw that humans discovered 3 years ago. A focused electromagnetic pulse at the right frequency would cause them to shut down permanently." "Impossible," Vextar said, but his voice was uncertain. "We tested it," Yongbo said simply, "on a similar reactor that we built ourselves. It worked perfectly." Song Yu moved to the next profile. "For the Chitauri, we would target the Queen caste with engineered viruses that affect only your specific genetic markers." Queen Zekthara made a sound like breaking glass. "You would commit genocide?" "No," Day said firmly. "We would ensure that new queens could not be born for approximately 50 years. Your current queens would live normal lifespans, but your species would gradually return to individual consciousness instead of hive mind collective. That would destroy our entire civilization," Queen Zekthara protested. "It would change your civilization," Song Yu corrected. "Your people would survive, but they would no longer pose a military threat to anyone. The displays moved to show the Luminar protocols. These were particularly complex, involving harmonic frequencies that could shatter their crystalline forms. For the Luminar, Song-Yu continued, humans would use resonance weapons to destabilize your molecular structure. Not enough to kill you, but enough to prevent you from maintaining starship-level technology. Prismdol's crystal form dimmed to almost black. You would return us to a primitive state. You would return to your homeworld and live peaceful lives, Day said. You would just not be able to build weapons capable of threatening other species. Ryu, Earth's strategic defense coordinator, stepped forward. She was a quiet woman who rarely spoke in public, but when she did, military commanders across the galaxy listened. The protocols exist for every species we have encountered, Ryuha said. Not just the ones in this chamber, every member of the Galactic Alliance, every independent civilization, every hostile force. How many? Asked Lumnara. Currently, we have detailed extinction protocols for 237 different species, Ryuha answered. The plans are updated monthly as we learn new information. The chamber was completely silent now. The scale of human preparation was beyond what any of them had imagined. You must understand, Day said, that humans hope never to use these plans. They exist as insurance, nothing more. Insurance against what? General Vextar asked. Against the day when talking stops working, Day answered. Song-Yu activated a new display. This one showed Earth itself, surrounded by defense stations and patrol fleets. Humans learned long ago that the best way to ensure peace is to be prepared for war, she said. But we also learned that being prepared for war is not enough. What else is required? Asked Prismdoll. You must be prepared to win, Song-Yu said. Not just to fight, but to win so completely that the enemy never wants to fight you again. Ryu-Ha stepped closer to the center of the chamber. Human military doctrine is based on a simple principle. When we fight, civilizations end. Not species, Day clarified. Not planets or people, civilizations. The organized military and political structures that allow species to threaten others. We have studied every major war in galactic history, Song-Yu said. Most conflicts end with temporary victories. The losing side rebuilds, rethinks their strategy, and tries again in a few decades. Human wars end differently, Ryu-Ha added. When humans fight, we ensure that our enemies lack the ability to threaten anyone ever again. The displays changed to show historical examples. These were not human battles, but conflicts between other species that humans had studied. The Vorthak-Silani War lasted 300 years, Song-Yu said. Millions died on both sides. It ended when both species were too exhausted to continue fighting. 50 years later, they fought again, Ryu-Ha noted. Then again after that, the cycle continued for over 1,000 years. Human military planners studied this conflict extensively, Song-Yu said. We identified 17 different ways that either side could have ended the war permanently within the first 5 years. How? Asked Piptech. By targeting the enemy's ability to make war instead of their ability to resist, Ryu-Ha explained. Destroy their weapons factories, but leave their food production alone. Eliminate their military leadership, but spare their civilian government. Disable their war fleets, but allow their merchant ships to continue trading. Remove the tools of aggression while preserving the civilization itself, Song-Yu added. Day looked around the chamber, meeting each delegate's eyes in turn. This is why humans avoid war, he said. Not because we cannot fight, but because we fight too well. When humans go to war, Ryu-Ha said, we do not stop until the threat is permanently eliminated. We do not accept temporary victories or negotiated settlements that leave our enemies free to attack again in the future. We have learned from our own history, Song-Yu added. Humans fought each other for thousands of years, because we kept making the same mistake. We would defeat our enemies but leave them able to rebuild and try again. So we developed new methods, Deye said. Ways to win wars so completely that our enemies would never want to fight us again. The displays showed the final component of human military doctrine. These were post-war reconstruction plans, designed to help defeated enemies rebuild their civilizations in peaceful directions. After we eliminate an enemy's military threat, Song Yu explained. We help them create new governments, new economies, new social structures that have no need for aggressive warfare. You conquer them and then rebuild them? Queen Zekthara asked. We liberate them from the necessity of being our enemies, Day corrected. We remove their ability to threaten others, but we give them everything they need to prosper in peace. The Yas. Centauri Republic is an example, Ryu Ha said. They went from being raiders to being our allies because we showed them a better way to achieve their goals. But what if they had refused to change? Asked Lumnara. Then we would have implemented the extinction protocols, Day said simply. The Centauri would still exist, but they would no longer be capable of raiding civilian ships. General Vextar was staring at his species profile, his red eyes dim with shock. You have planned to eliminate every species in the galaxy? We have planned to defend ourselves against every species in the galaxy, Day corrected. There is a difference. Is there? Vextar asked. Yes, Day said firmly. Defense implies that we act only when threatened. The protocols exist, but they are activated only if diplomacy fails. Song Yu closed her displays and looked around the chamber. Humans have been part of the Galactic Alliance for 50 years. In that time, how many species have we fought? The Ailey. The silence that followed was unlike anything the Galactic Council chamber had ever experienced. It was not the quiet of respect or contemplation. It was the silence of species suddenly realizing they had been standing at the edge of an abyss. Without knowing it, General Vextar sat motionless in his massive chair. His red eyes stared at the space where his species' extinction protocol had been displayed. The Thrakari were proud warriors who had never known defeat, but now he understood that their entire military doctrine was based on fighting enemies who thought like they did. Enemies who fought for honor, glory, and conquest. Humans fought for something much more dangerous, permanent solutions. Queen Zekthara's mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. The sound had been constant throughout her entire adult life, a nervous habit that helped her think. Now her insectoid body was perfectly still as she processed what she had learned. The Chitauri hive mind was experiencing something new, individual, fear. Each of her citizens was suddenly aware that their collective consciousness could be deliberately severed by beings who understood their biology better than they did themselves. Prismdoll's crystalline form had gone completely dark. The Luminar communicated through light patterns, but now he had no colors left to express what he was feeling. For a species that thought in harmonics and frequencies, the realization that humans could shatter their very existence with sound was beyond terrifying. Lumnara's gaseous body flickered like a candle in the wind. The ethereal had always prided themselves on being above physical concerns, existing as pure energy that could not be contained or destroyed. Now she knew that humans had found ways to disrupt even the fundamental forces that held her consciousness together. Piptek, the small representative who had been so angry about human weakness, now seemed to shrink even further into his seat. His people were traders and diplomats, not warriors. They had assumed their neutrality would protect them from human attention. The revelation that humans had protocols for everyone, including peaceful species, showed how thoroughly they planned for every possibility. High Counselor Mordan broke the silence. His ancient mechanical voice was quieter than usual. Ambassador Day, he said slowly, are you telling this council that humans have the ability to eliminate any species they choose? We are telling you that we have the ability to defend ourselves against any threat, Day replied. What we choose to do with that ability depends entirely on how others choose to treat us. But you could destroy us all if you wanted to, Mordan pressed. We could neutralize you all if we needed to, Day corrected. Destruction and neutralization are different things. Kim Baum, Earth's first contact specialist, stood up from her place in the human delegation. She was younger than the others, with kind eyes that seemed out of place among the military officers and intelligence analysts. May I explain something? She asked Day. He nodded. Honored counselors, Kim Baum said, addressing the chamber. I think there is a misunderstanding about human nature. You see our military capabilities and assume that we are a warlike species pretending to be peaceful. She activated a small holographic display showing Earth again, but this time it focused on the planet's surface. Cities, farms, forests, and oceans appeared in beautiful detail. "The truth is the opposite," Kim Bomb said. "We are a peaceful species that became very good at war because we had to." The hologram showed human families, schools, hospitals, and parks, children playing, couples walking together, elderly people sitting in gardens. Every human alive today exists because their ancestors survived war, Kim Bomb explained. Not just human wars, but the constant warfare of nature itself. Only the humans who could fight, plan, and adapt lived long enough to have children. "So you evolved for war," General Vextar said. "We evolved for survival," Kim Bomb corrected. "War was just one of many threats we had to overcome." The hologram changed to show human colonies on other worlds, peaceful settlements where different species lived and worked together. "When humans left Earth and met other species, we hoped we could finally stop fighting," Kim Bomb said. "We thought that intelligent beings from different worlds would be more reasonable than wild animals or human tribes." "But you still prepared for war," Queen Zekathara observed. "Because hope is not a strategy," Kim Bomb said simply. "Humans learned long ago that if you want peace, you must be ready for war. But we also learned that being ready for war is not enough." "What else is needed?" asked Lumnara. "You must be so obviously prepared for war that no one wants to test you," Kim Bomb said. Lee June, a young diplomatic aide, stood up nervously from the back of the human section. He was barely out of university, with the kind of idealistic expression that made older diplomats smile sadly. "Ambassador Day," he said, "may I ask a question?" Day nodded, though he looked concerned about what the young man might say. "Are the extinction protocols real?" Lee June asked. "I mean, do they actually exist, or were you just trying to scare the council?" The chamber held its breath. Several alien delegates leaned forward, desperate to know the answer. Day looked at the young aide for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was very quiet, but it carried clearly through the silent chamber. "Mr. Lee," he said, "what do you think would happen if I told you they were not real?" Lee June thought about this. I suppose the other species might think humans were bluffing. They might decide to test our limits." "And what would happen then?" Day asked. The young man's face went pale as he realized the implications. "Then humans would have to prove that we are not bluffing." "And how would we do that?" Day pressed. Lee June's voice was barely a whisper. "By implementing the protocols." "So you see the problem," Day said. "If the protocols are real, other species fear us. If they are not real, other species will eventually force us to make them real." General Vextar spoke up. "So they do exist." "General," Day said, "I am going to give you the same answer that humans have given to everyone who has asked that question for the past 50 years. He paused and looked directly into the Thrakari's glowing red eyes. "We have never had to use them. Let us hope we never do." The silence returned, deeper than before. The implications of Day's words settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Queen Zekthara was the first to break the quiet. "You said humans joined the Alliance because you hoped never to need your true capabilities." "That is correct," Day confirmed. "Then why reveal them now?" she asked. "Why tell us about the protocols if you hoped we would never learn about them?" Day smiled, but this time it was a sad smile instead of a cold one. "Because, Your Majesty, you were about to force us to join your war." The alien delegates exchanged glances. They were beginning to understand. "If humans join the war against the Outer Rim Coalition," Prismdoll said slowly, "what will happen?" "The war will end," Ryuha said simply. "How quickly?" asked Piptek. "That depends on how quickly the coalition surrenders," Song Yu answered. "And if they do not surrender?" Lumnara asked. The humans exchanged looks. It was Yongbo who answered. "Then the Outer Rim Coalition will cease to exist as a military threat," she said. "Their ships will be disabled, their weapons will be destroyed, and their leadership will be removed from power." "You would conquer them?" General Vextar asked. "We would liberate the sectors they have occupied and ensure they cannot threaten anyone again," Day said. "Their people would survive, but their ability to make war would not. How long would this take? Asked High Counselor Mordan. Our best estimate is 6 months, Ryuha said. Possibly less if they realize what is happening and choose to negotiate. The chamber absorbed this information. The war that had been raging for 3 years, costing millions of lives and consuming vast resources, could be ended in 6 months by human intervention. Why do you not want to do this? Queen Zekthera asked. If you can end the war so quickly, why not join us? Kim Bomb answered this question. Because after we end this war, you will never look at humans the same way again. What do you mean? Asked Lumnara. Right now, you see us as weak allies who prefer talking to fighting, Kim Bomb explained. After we demonstrate what human warfare really looks like, you will see us as the most dangerous species in the galaxy. You will fear us, Yungbo added, and fear changes relationships. We would rather be your friends than your masters, Day said. General Vextar was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was thoughtful. If humans joined our war and ended it as quickly as you claim, he said, would you then demand tribute from the rest of us? Would you use your demonstrated power to control the Alliance? No, Day said immediately. Why not? Vexatar pressed. You would have proven your superiority. You could dictate terms to everyone. Because that is not what humans want, Kim Bomb said. We want to trade with you, learn from you, explore the galaxy with you. We want to build things together and discover new worlds together. Conquest and control are what you do to enemies, Day added. You are not our enemies. Yet, Queen Zekthara said quietly. Yet, Day agreed. The word hung in the air like a threat and a promise at the same time. High Counselor Mordan spoke again. I think this council needs time to consider what we have learned today. Of course, Day said. But before we adjourn, I have one more thing to say. He stood up and looked around. The chamber one final time. The Outer Rim Coalition will...